We were working for a NGO, a national NGO in the UK, who was trying to set up marriage counselling centres all around the UK. So Richard was doing most of the driving around, and of course he had small children, but soon realised that when people come for counselling, quite often it's too late. You know, it's gone too far. And so he thought, we really want to do something preventative, you know.
He thought, did he?
Yes.
He thought.
So he had this idea. So one day when we stood in there, we had just bought our first house, which was a ruin. And we're trying to do it up, you know, with little money. But we stood in B&Q, a DIY store, buying paint. And then he thought, here's other people buying paints and lampshades for their houses or flats or wherever they live in. But they don't spend any time towards the relationship. You know, they're just trying to make the house to live in very nice.
Yeah, that's true. I remember standing there and thinking that. And then at the same time, a friend of ours, he just split up from his wife. And I was a bit irritated about this because he'd had a big wedding. And I took him out for a drink and I said, what are you doing? Is there somebody else involved? You know, are you arguing all the time? And he said, no, it's nothing like that. He says, well, why are you breaking up? He said, we've just drifted apart. I thought, that could be me, really, because at the time we had little ones, you know, broken house, you know, lots of pressure. And I thought, that could be me. And then I thought about all the couples who get married every year, and at the wedding day, everybody taps them on the back and says, yeah, well done, good man, da-de-da. And then they're on their own. So I thought, literally, couldn't we do something just to encourage all the couples once a year to say, look, well done, just keep going, you know, it can't get worse, it can only get better. So, you know, because I had this particular job, I called a meeting, everybody came, I said, we want to do something really public, and they went, great, if you do it, we'll support you. And I was a bit younger and a bit more stupid, and I said, okay. So off we went, and then decided to call it National Marriage Week, made a video, sent it to everybody. And then there was like 500 churches all said, yeah, we're all going to do something at the same time. But I was really distressed because I told all these churches that we were going to run a media campaign to reflect what they were doing locally, which was part of the appeal. And we weren't going to do it. It was like, they had no money, no idea, all the rest of it. And then I got this phone call. Do you remember the phone call? At the end of the phone call, I went to Mary, I said, our lives are never going to be the same again. And she said, what? I said, let me tell you who's just called up. And it was the personal assistant to the then Lord Chancellor, Lord Mackay. And the Lord Chancellor is the Speaker of the Upper House, in charge of all the judiciary and in the Prime Minister's cabinet, fairly important. And she said, she phoned up, she said, oh, we've heard about your National Marriage Week, Mr. Keane. Are you doing anything in London to launch it? And I said, no. And she said, well, if we, which is the department, she said, if we put on a launch event for you, and we invite all the media in the UK and all the organisations that work with families in the UK, and the Lord Chancellor makes a speech at it, will you, Mr. Keane, be free to host it? So I said, well, I'll just check my diary, see if I'm free on that day, and we had a bit of a giggle. And then I went up to and had a meeting with these officers in Whitehall, and there was 3 of them and 1 of me around the table. And they said, well, you'll step forward and then the Lord Chancellor will sit on the left and you'll sit on the right, and all the protocols, you see. And I leaned in and I said, hold on a minute. I said, why are you doing this? And they looked at each other like, what? I said, because, you know, you're really important, you know, Her Majesty's government. And I said, we're just a little tin pot charity. In fact, I'm working from the garage in my house. So why are you doing this? And I remember they looked at each other and scratched around a bit, and then one leaned in and she said, but Mr. Kay, you are National Marriage Week and Her Majesty's government want to do with you. And so I thought, I'm supposed to be the Christian here, they have more faith than I have, they think this thing really exists. And then I thought, I've fooled Her Majesty's government into believing something exists that doesn't exist, so I'll just go. So I said, well, if I am National Marriage Week, then may it be as you say. And then it was, you know, and it just exploded into like the biggest media thing ever, literally, you know. And in the second year we came joint second place at the PR Week Annual Awards for Best Promotional Activity of the Year. And the other finalists were Kellogg's, Lego, Microsoft. So it really put it on the map. We did photo calls with the Prime Minister and loads of TV and radio and stuff. We'd never done anything like this before. It was hilarious. And then people from other countries they'd heard about this and they started phoning up saying, oh, could we do that where we are? Could you help us? So I thought, oh, this is fun. This is exciting. So we went to Prague. Well, I went to Prague. You didn't, did you?
No.
And helped them there, and then we helped them a bit in Switzerland as pilots, and they went very well. And all of a sudden, there's like 26 countries, you know, and we formed an international association. And just like, here we are.
Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes when I go home and, you know, everyday life and you just sit there and you do whatever you do, you can get discouraged, you know, and you think, oh my goodness, what am I doing with my life and what are we doing? It's
Do you
just,
think things like that, do you?
yes, sometimes I do. You know, you can get down in the dumps, you know.
You can get down the dumps.
But then, you know, when you then meet one of these people who work in the nations and you hear what they're doing, you are absolutely stunned. It's like it hits you in your heart there, and you think, can't believe that all these people are doing these things. It's because that little idea we had once standing in the queue, you know, in BMQ all these years ago. And then you think, well, that's why I'm doing it. Because I want to empower other people to bless their nations, help the couples and families and individuals where they live, to change people's lives and improve people's lives, you know. And that's what motivates me. So when I get comments from here, then I get inspired. I mean, the only thing is obviously when you go home and people that who live at home, they don't understand your world.
No.
And that is the most biggest challenge that we have. So then you come home and you're quite alone.
Yeah.
Because, no, not alone, but you know what I'm trying to say, because people don't understand. So that's why it's nice when you then you bring someone to the conferences and they see it for themselves and they can, you're not an idiot, you know, you're not, you know, what you're doing is amazing and what God is doing is amazing.
We think there are over 5,000 volunteer leaders involved in Marriage Week in different countries. That's a lot of people. And you think that each one of those might put on an event with, you know, a couple of hundred people, and those are actually people attending events. Then there's all the media exposure, you know, which is millions and millions and millions. It's just really cascades, you know. I know there are other projects that have like a big reach as well, but you know, this, like, for the amount of input that you put into encouraging activity, you get a massive return on the investment of time and money and such like. So, you know, I like economies of scale, and I like to think, well, isn't it funny that you can kind of like reach so many nations with hardly any money and hardly any time, just by, I don't know really, just a great story, I suppose.
Well, I think it's a very simple idea, and it's got a beginning and an end. So it's not, it's not a life-changing commitment you have to do too long, and you can do something very simple. And I think that appeals to people. So they just do what they can in their community.
And you know, I can remember it's quite hard for Christians to do something that they don't control. But the nature of Marriage Week is that it's out of control. So you have to have a certain risk appetite or like a funny sense of humour. Because I remember in year one, I was in a cab in London going from interview to interview, and I was on my way to some radio station, and the radio was on in the cab, and it was Capital Radio, which is a commercial radio. And Capital Radio had made their own National Marriage Week jingle, and it was on the radio while I was in the back of the cab, and I heard it, and it went to it's National Marriage Week on Capital Radio, typical kind of thing. And I sat in the back and I thought, oh, nobody's asked me if they can use that form of words. How do I feel about that? And I sat in the back and I thought, how do I feel about it? How do I feel? And I thought, I feel really good about that, actually. Because that means it's taken on a life of its own, which means that you can't control it, which means that sometimes people do things in the name of national pride that you might not really like. But I'd rather have 90% which is really good of a lot than 100% of nothing, which is something else. So, Well, I mean, this group, like you said, they are completely inspirational because, they just kind of like, I don't know, they're like my children. Do you know what I mean? It's like they've just gone, oh yeah, I believe, I'm daft enough to believe something great could happen, and then it does, and they go like, yes, they're crazy, and everybody's just a bit freaked out. So I love being here, it's a great encouragement, but it's also great to see what can happen,
Which one will we take? Thank you very much.